Welcome back, everybody. This is Boot Camp for Combat by Compass Games and Ross Mortel. I'm Cliff, aka Wee Beasties, and we're continuing in our three-part introduction to the components of this game system. And in this unit, we're going to be looking at the decks of cards. This is a card-driven game system, and it's a little bit different than some other war games that use decks of cards. And there's some, like Up Front from long ago, that use cards not only for the characters and their actions, but the cards also define the map. And in Warfighter, the map that you're going through in a scenario is pretty much defined by the cards that you draw. Here we have a hex map, like a normal, in my world, war game. It's kind of similar to Combat Commander in a way. Well, it's obviously similar to Ambush because it was designed after that. In Combat Commander, the decks of cards define what you and your opponent are able to do. The cards you have define the actions you can execute. In this game, in combat, you as the friendly player, driving the Americans, can pretty much decide to do anything you want to do. The cards will define when you get to do it in a game turn. The German AI, though, the enemy player, is going to be driven by the cards that it draws. So the enemy units in combat are kind of like Combat Commander, where the actions are driven by the cards that they get. Now, there are two different decks of cards that are present in this game. We're going to cover the friendly deck first because it'll be the first that you encounter in the sequence of play. The friendly deck has 52 cards, and they come in 4 different types. The most common one are order cards. Now, cards have some different areas on them. The American cards have a card identification number here in the green circle. At the top here, we have the initiative box. In the initiative box, we have numbers for initiative. Lower is better. Lower goes earlier. Higher goes later. For our 3 teams, Able, Baker, Charlie. Each card has its own, and the initiative numbers for friendly players are always even. In the center of the card, we have some text that's going to tell us what to do and what kind of card it is. This is an order card. When an order card is played during the game for initiative, the order that's described will be in effect for that entire game turn. So if I played this card for initiative, the order Poor Shooting would be in effect for that turn, where all of my Baker team are lousy shots. They lose 1 weapon skill for the turn. Sometimes the order can be good for you, work in your favor. Sometimes it can be annoying and get in the way, like this one. At the bottom of the card is our combat resolution text. In this case, we have a bad wound. We'll talk about wounds and the effects of firing later, but there are basically 4 different possible effects. You could have a close call, where you just get a morale check, a light wound, where you just get a flesh wound, a bad wound, which is going to be more incapacitating, or there could be a killed in action, KIA, of which I don't have an example out on the screen right now, but some of them say KIA, but not very many. The second type of card is a discard card. It also has initiative values that you can play it for. If you play it for the initiative, the discard text is ignored. And of course, it also works as a combat resolution card. Close call in this case. MC is for morale check. Now, a discard card can be saved up if you got one in your hand and played during a turn for its discard text. So if I'm playing and I have a friendly character, in this case, who has been shaken due to the result of enemy fire. They've reached shaken morale. I could play this discard onto him, because for one friendly character I can increase morale by 2 levels. So I could bump him back up to normal morale. But then you have one less card in your hand. More cards in your hand gives you more flexibility, but it's hard to get cards into your hand. The last 2 kinds of cards are event cards. There are 2 different types of event cards in the American deck. These are special events that you're going to roll on an event table. There are generic event tables that are sometimes used, and in some scenarios there are scenario-specific event tables. These involve things like the arrival of reinforcements or artillery strikes, just to spice up your life. Now, there are 2 types of order cards. There are a couple of these which are initiative value bearing event cards. Come pop up there. There we go. This card has an initiative value, and it says that, hey, this is a friendly event card. That's an order. If I played this card for initiative, to get those initiative values, this order would be executed, which means that we roll on the friendly event table and maybe get a friendly mortar strike or something to help us out. This is not a re-roll or not a reshuffle card. This is just a regular old order. Just the order in this case is an event. There are 2 friendly cards like this. There are 2 enemy cards like this. So the event would be a roll for a friendly event or roll for an enemy event. And lastly, cards 51 and 52 to round out the deck are event cards that do not have initiative values. You see, the initiative values are blank. You cannot play these for initiative because they do not have an initiative value. These are reshuffle cards, and the text tells you exactly what to do. There is one of these for enemy and one of these for friendly. It's card 51 and 52. So when you draw this card, you stop and you read the text, and you see it says roll on enemy event table. So you immediately roll on the enemy event table and execute that event. Then you draw a replacement card for this, because you were drawing a card for some reason. Draw another card to fulfill that requirement. Then you put this card and the discard pile back into your deck, shuffle them up, and move on. So these are your reshuffle cards. There's 2 of them in the complete deck. Now, these are not all present at equal proportions. I've created a kind of a statistical analysis of the decks that go through many different things, and I'll cover it in different units in this boot camp. But the card type is one of the first analyses I did. I broke down the deck by type, and you see that events are rare. With initiative, there's only 4. Without initiative, there's only 2. So that's 6 out of 52. That's about 12%. That means there's like a 1 in 8 chance of drawing one of these over time. So you can use your Bernoulli formula and figure out how many cards on average you will draw before you're forced to reshuffle. I haven't done that. I'm not that OCD, but maybe I will now that I thought of it. Okay, the next most common are discards. There are 18 of those. That's about 1 chance in 3. It's 35% of the deck are discard cards, which are handy to play during turns to boost up different aspects of your soldiers during play. But the most common are order cards. Over half the time, you're going to get order cards. So, back again. Now, that's the American deck, and I'll run through the initiative process next time. Now let's take a look at the enemy deck. That's over here in our display mat. We've got an enemy deck. The enemy deck has 50 cards, and all the cards are pretty much alike. These are not going to drive events. They're not going to directly impact you or your soldiers. Indirectly, they're going to have a big effect on you and your soldiers. These are going to drive the AI for the German soldiers. So normally you'll draw one of these for each of the teams. Let's say that you have all 4 teams on the board, and you go from top to bottom. Let's say red is first. Just draw a card and put it on red, and then white is next, and then blue, and then yellow. Okay. Each of these has an initiative number in the green circle. It says initiative. Come on, pop up. There you go. Pops up. And the blue circle, down a little bit here, at 26, that's just the card identification number. There are a lot of numbers on this. Sorry, it keeps popping up and down. What's with this mouse? I'm just going to stop touching it. Okay. There are a lot of values on these cards. They basically tell you what the German soldier's order is going to be for that turn. It's based upon a couple of things. First, proximity to a friendly, that's you, character. Then, whether or not the particular soldier is in cover or not. We talked about terrains that are cover and those that are not. Basically, open and fields are not cover. Everything else under the sun is cover. And then the morale state of that soldier. So, proximity to a friendly character will be important for grenade or charge attacks. Grenade attack possibilities are G's. Charge attack possibilities are C's. So you can see in this case, if you had an enemy soldier and it had a bold morale and it was in cover, it would have a possibility for a grenade attack, and you have to do a TQC to see if they pass or not. If they pass, they get the grenade attack. If they do not pass the TQC, a true quality check, they would get the rapid fire order. If they were aggressive and in cover, they would get aim fire. If they were in the open and aggressive, they would get run and gun with 6-1 directions if they did not pass their TQC. If they did pass their TQC, they would get a charge order. So the first thing you have to do is ask, okay, is this soldier within 4 hexes of an enemy unit? Period. Because if it is, you have to consider these things if you've got the letter. If it's not, just decide, is it in cover or is it in the open? And then what morale state does it have? Rout and Berserk are kind of special morale states. Rout will always have its own direction. So it's going to rout to 3, and Berserk will Berserk to direction 5. So that's going to define whether they're moving back or up rather aggressively. Each card has its own mix of commands. In a normal game, you would draw one of these cards for each of your soldiers within a color, and you would apply the first one of the color to the initiative track. These numbers in initiative will help us to order our soldier teams into a playing order later. So really that's the components of the deck. There's 50 of these. When you run through the whole deck and you get to the end where you have no cards, that's when you reshuffle the German cards. So the German cards, you just run to the end of the deck and you reshuffle and start over. The Americans, you reshuffle when you get to one of the event cards without the initiative values. That's an introduction to the deck. I'm going to do another quick video probably today on the initiative system because it's fairly easy to run through, and then we'll spend some time talking about orders. I'll see you next time.